What if the nickel in your pocket right now wasn't just worth 5 cents? What if it carried a story stretching back nearly half a century, and in the right condition, it could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars? That's exactly the case with the 1980 Jefferson nickel, a coin that at first glance looks ordinary, but has a fascinating history. And for collectors, the right examples can be surprisingly valuable. Let's start with some background. The Jefferson nickel has been a staple of U.S. coinage since 1938, when it replaced the Buffalo nickel. Felix Schlock, a German-born sculptor, won the design competition held by the U.S. Mint, and his artwork has been at the center of American pocket change ever since. On the obverse, or front, of the coin, we see a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and the principal author of the Declaration of Independence. On the reverse, you'll find a detailed image of Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia estate. This pairing of Jefferson's profile and his home has made the nickel one of the most recognizable U.S. coins of the 20th century. By the time 1980 rolled around, the Jefferson nickel had already been in circulation for more than 4 decades. It had weathered design adjustments, the World War to Silver War nickels between 1942 and 1945, and subtle changes in strike quality across different decades. But the coin's essence remained the same: Jefferson on the obverse, Monticello on the reverse, and a place in the everyday lives of millions of Americans. Now, let's zoom in on 1980. This was an important transitional year for U.S. coinage. The late 1970s had seen rising costs of metals and a push to refine minting techniques, and by 1980, the mint was producing coins in massive numbers to keep up with demand. The Jefferson nickel was no exception. In 1980, 3 different U.S. mints struck the Jefferson nickel: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. This year is especially notable because it marked the first time the Philadelphia mint added a P mint mark to its coins, something collectors now take for granted. Before 1980, Philadelphia coins typically carried no mint mark at all, which made it difficult for collectors to trace the origin of their coins. So, when you see a 1980 nickel with a P mint mark, know that it was the first year in U.S. history that this practice was adopted. That alone gives the coin a special place in numismatic history. Here's a breakdown of production. Philadelphia struck over 657 million nickels with the new P mint mark. Denver produced even more than 735 million nickels with the familiar D. San Francisco, on the other hand, struck proof coins only, with a total of about 3.5 million proof nickels bearing the S mint mark. Put together, that's nearly 1.4 billion nickels minted in 1980, a huge number by any standard. With such large production, you might be thinking these coins can't possibly be rare, and in circulated condition, you'd be right. A 1980 nickel you find in pocket change, almost always worth just 5 cents. But here's where it gets interesting. Condition, rarity at the highest grades, and era varieties are what turn a common coin into a collector's prize. Let's talk composition for a moment. The 1980 Jefferson nickel in a copper-nickel alloy, with 75% copper and 25% nickel, weighing 5 grams and measuring 21.2 millimeters in diameter. Unlike earlier silver nickels from World War II, the 1980 nickel has no precious metal content. So when it comes to value, everything depends on grade and collector demand. Now, condition is king in numismatics. A circulated 1980 nickel worth face value, but uncirculated coins, especially those graded mint state by professional services like PCGS and NGC, start to become interesting. An MS-63 example might sell for just $1 or $2. By MS-65, the price jumps to about $10 to $15. When you get to MS-66, values can range from $30 to $60, depending on demand and eye appeal. But the real leap comes at MS-67 and above. In these grades, coins become genuinely scarce. A 1980 P nickel graded MS-67 has sold for over $500 at auction, and a 1980D in the same grade has reached similar levels. If you ever come across one graded MS67 Plus or MS68, you're looking at a true rarity that could sell for over $1,000. Proof coins from San Francisco have their own market. A 1980S proof nickel in PR67 is worth around $5 to $8, but higher grades like PR69 Deep Cameo can reach $20 to $40. Perfect PR70 Deep Cameo examples are the real prizes, often commanding $200 to $400, depending on demand and the strength of the strike. Collectors especially look for those with deep mirror fields and frosted devices, which make the coin visually striking. But where things get really fun for treasure hunters are the eras and varieties. Era nickels are some of the most collectible in modern coinage. For the 1980 Jefferson nickel, you can find examples with off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the planchette wasn't aligned correctly. Depending on how dramatic the off-center strike is, values can range from $50 to several $100s. There are also double die-obverse varieties, where the lettering or Jefferson's profile shows signs of doubling. These are much less common, but can sell for strong premiums if authenticated. Missing clad layers, although rare on nickels compared to dimes and quarters, have been reported and can fetch hundreds of dollars. Struck through errors, where a piece of debris got between the die and the planchette, can also bring in serious collector interest. Another fascinating point is the first year P mint mark itself. Since 1980 was the first year Philadelphia used the P on nickels, some collectors focus heavily on finding the best possible examples of this coin to commemorate the milestone. This makes high-grade Philadelphia nickels especially attractive at auction. To put this into perspective, let's look at some auction records. A 1980p Jefferson nickel-graded MS67 Plus by PCGS sold for nearly $1,500, setting a benchmark for the series. A 1980D in MS67 has sold for over $700. Even proof nickels have surprised collectors, with perfect PR70 Deep Cameo examples hitting $400 to $500, and era coins, depending on severity, have crossed the $1,000 mark when the right buyers are competing. So, what does all this mean for you? If you come across a 1980 Jefferson nickel, don't dismiss it as just another 5-cent coin. Look closely at the mint mark. If it has a P, remember you're holding the first ever Philadelphia mint marked nickel in circulation. If it's in great condition with sharp details and little to no wear, it might be worth getting graded. And if you spot something unusual doubling, off-center designs, or strange surfaces, it could be an era coin worth far more than face value. At the end of the day, the 1980 Jefferson nickel reminds us that even modern coins can have hidden gems. Most people see a nickel and think nothing of it, but collectors know that history, condition, and rarity all come together to create value. The thrill of finding that one coin in pristine shape, or discovering an era that few others have, is what makes coin collecting so exciting. So the next time you're going through your change, pay attention to those dates and mint marks. The 1980 Jefferson nickel isn't just another coin, it's a milestone in US coinage history. And in the right form, it could be worth far more than its 5-cent face. And just like I always say, the next valuable coin could already be sitting in your hands. If you want to know how and where to sell nickels like this, stick around until the end of my videos. For now, if you've got a 1980 Jefferson nickel and you're curious about its potential worth, drop the word price in the comments, and I'll share the details with you directly.